Hello. Making my anxiety, antipas, and the Antichrist video, I felt the juice is flowing, so I thought I'd do a Bible study. This is number 50 of my Matthew Bible study, Matthew 11, 20 to 24. Then Jesus began to denounce the towns in which most of his miracles had been performed, because they did not repent. Woe to you, Chorazin! Woe to you, Bethsaida! For the miracles that were performed in you had been performed in Tyre and Sidon. They would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I tell you, it will be more bearable for Tyre and Sidon on the day of judgment than for you. And you, Capernaum, will you be lifted to the heavens? No, you will go down to Hades. For the miracles that were performed in you had been performed in Sodom. It would have remained to this day. But I tell you, there will be more bearable for Sodom on that day of judgment than for you. Now, I would have loved to be living in the time of Jesus and seeing his miracles. We live in an age where miracles are hard to come by. And these people would not repent. These people would not turn to God and take the wonderful gift of his grace and his transformation. And so Jesus compared them to Tyre and compared Capernaum to Sodom. This is in the only time that Jesus talks about Sodom is in this chapter and in Luke 10:12, which is a retelling of this. And Luke 17:28. It was the same in the days of Lot. People were eating and drinking, buying and selling, planning and building. But the day Lot left Sodom, fire and sulfur rained down from heaven and destroyed them all. It'll be just like this on the day that the Son of Man is revealed. So God used Sodom. Jesus used Sodom as a description of unbelief and unrepentance. And I'm going to talk about homosexuality right now, because you'd think that if, and I'm talking about homosexual monogamous relationships. I'm not talking about temple worship. I'm not talking about male prostitutes or anything like here. I'm just talking about homosexuality as we know it today, monogamous homosexuality. Fornication is fornication, whether it's homosexual or heterosexual. Just like monogamy is the same if it's heterosexual or homosexual. And Jesus doesn't mention homosexuality. Paul does. But when Paul does, is it in the context of temple worship and of male prostitutes? I don't know. And my denomination recently became, I think, the third denomination to ordain homosexual ministers as long as they are in a monogamous, long-term committed relationship. And as I said in other videos, either they are making a terrible mistake in going against God, or the fundamentalist churches are blocking people from the kingdom of heaven who otherwise would be, because we're all sinners saved by grace. This is a tough issue. It's splitting denominations apart, and I don't know where I stand on it. Like I say, it's either or. It can't be both. But I do know one thing, getting back to Sodom. Ezekiel mentions Sodom. Ezekiel 16:46. Your older sister was Samaria, who lived to your north. Ezekiel 16:48. As surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, your sister Sodom and her daughters never did what you and your daughters have done. Now this was the sin of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters were arrogant, overfed, and unconcerned. They did not help the poor and needy. And when we support policies that the poor and needy need to help them survive, help them live, we're just like Sodom and Gomorrah. We're just like Sodom and Gomorrah. Excuse me 1 minute. Peter talks about Sodom in 2:5-7. If he did not spare the ancient world when he brought the flood and its ungodly people, but protected Noah, a preacher of righteousness, and 7 others. If he condemned the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah by burning them to ashes and made them an example of what is going to happen to the ungodly, and if he rescued Lot, a righteous man who is distressed by the depraved conduct of the lawless. But in Jude 1.7, in a similar way, Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding towns gave themselves up to sexual immorality and perversion. They serve as an example of those who suffered the punishment of eternal fire. And that verse could be saying that, yes, it was the homosexuality of Sodom that helped bring its judgment, as well as the greed of Ezekiel. And so I don't know. I just know that those who support ordination of homosexual people in long-term committed relationship also seem to be supporting policies that help the poor and help the needy. And those who are most against those policies are the ones against ordination. And that confuses me. Ordination of homosexuals in monogamous relationships. That confuses me. Because I know that the tax policy, that the tax cuts for the wealthy, all they do is increase the rich's wealth. They save. Statistically, that's what they do. They save. They don't put them. Trickle-down economics just doesn't work. It's voodoo economics, as former President George Herbert Walker Bush said. And so who knows, maybe liberals are sodomites when it comes to homosexuality, and conservatives are sodomites when it comes to greed. I don't know. And I mentioned this before, and I'll mention it again. It's Romans 13. For the one in authority is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid. For rulers do not bear the sword for no reason. They are God's servants, agents of wrath to bring punishment on the wrongdoer. Therefore, it is necessary to submit to the authorities, not only because of possible punishment, but also a matter of conscience. And this is sometimes when I think conservatives stop reading. Because this is Romans 13:6. This is why you pay taxes, for the authorities are God's servants who give their full time to governing. Give to everyone what you owe them. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, then respect. If honor, then honor. And you want to use government to protect sexual morality, but you don't want to use government to help fight poverty. That's hypocrisy. And in some ways I respect the libertarians because at least they are consistent. They don't want government to do anything except the bare basics. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you. I was a little all over the place. Hopefully I'll get another video within a week or two. God bless.